It was a toxic environment. It made me trust people less.
We were there for so many hours. You get comfortable with people until you're not. I had no idea what I was saving my son from. It's a house of horrors. They find this enormous trove of child pornography. The officer said we found Ziploc bags, each one with a girl's name on it. 11 charges of child sexual abuse related to a child actor.
Audiences are in shock over Quiet on Set: The Dark Side of Kids TV, a bombshell new investigation discovery docuseries that's pulling back the curtain on former Nickelodeon shows, alleging that there was a toxic and abusive environment behind the scenes on multiple shows created primarily by Nickelodeon showrunner Dan Schneider. From Drake Bell's disturbing claims to Quiet on Set's own now viral fallout, Access Hollywood is breaking down the show's major revelations.
I knew that my life was going to be absolutely completely different from that point on.
In Quiet on Set, Drake Bell reveals for the first time that he was the victim of sexual abuse during his time on Nickelodeon by his dialogue coach Brian Peck. The series gives a deep dive into their relationship, with Bell's dad Joe Bell alleging Peck started getting comfortable around his son during his time on The Amanda Show. Joe says he mentioned his concerns to production after seeing Peck around his son, but claims they brushed it off.
I go, I don't see anything abnormal, but it just doesn't, I don't have a good feeling. And she goes, oh, well, I don't know if you knew it or not, but he's gay. Maybe you're just homophobic and you just don't understand that he's a touchy-feely guy. So I said, okay. And then it just kept not setting well with me, so I told people on the set.
Bell claims that Peck created a wedge between him and his dad. The teen star eventually dropped his father as manager and alleges in the doc that things between him and Peck started getting worse after that.
He had pretty much worked his way into every aspect of my life.
At one point, Bell claims Peck would drive him to auditions and sometimes spend the night on his couch. But according to the actor, one day everything changed.
I was sleeping on the couch where I would usually sleep, and I woke up to him. I just opened my eyes, I woke up, and he was sexually assaulting me. And I froze and was in complete shock and had no idea what to do.
Bell says the abuse started when he was 15, and he admitted that at the time he felt like he couldn't tell anyone what happened. Bell claimed the abuse was, quote, extensive and brutal, and admitted he didn't know how to explain it on camera.
Whatever you feel comfortable or you think will help.
Why don't you do this?
Yeah.
Why don't you think of the worst stuff that someone can do to somebody as a sexual assault, and that'll answer your question.
Bell says he kept everything a secret for a while, but once he told his mom, she immediately called the cops, and Bell claims Peck confessed once police began their investigation.
He just started a full-on confession, and then he kept asking me over and over again. He's like, are we being recorded?
In 2004, Peck pleaded no contest to charges of a lewd act against a child and oral copulation of a person under 16, and was ordered to register as a sex offender. Because Drake was a minor at the time and the records remained sealed, no one knew he was a victim until now. Drake did attend Peck's trial with his mom and brother and remembers being shocked by how many people showed up to support Peck.
On the day of sentencing for Brian, I get to the courthouse. It was the most unbelievable thing I'd ever seen. His entire side of the courtroom was full. Full. There were definitely some recognizable faces on that side of the room. And my side was me, my mom, and my brother. Brian had been convicted, but getting all of this support from a lot of people in the industry, and yeah, I was pretty shocked.
After Peck was released from prison, he was hired by Disney Channel to perform voiceover work on The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, where he reportedly didn't interact with the cast or crew. Disney reportedly terminated Peck in 2006 upon learning of his conviction. Quiet on Set doesn't just call out Peck, it also blasts Nickelodeon for hiring Jason Handy, who was convicted of sexual abuse in 2004, and Azelle Channel, who was convicted in 2009 for sexually abusing teenage boys at the studio. Nickelodeon responded to Quiet on Set in a statement to Access Hollywood, saying in part that the network, quote, cannot corroborate or negate allegations of behaviors from productions decades ago. Nickelodeon, as a matter of policy, investigates all formal complaints as part of our commitment to fostering a safe and professional workplace environment, free of harassment or other kinds of inappropriate conduct. In addition, Nickelodeon says it has added, quote, adopted numerous safeguards over the years to help ensure we are living up to our own high standards and the expectations of our audience. And the network responded to Bell's story specifically, saying, quote, now that Drake Bell has disclosed his identity as a plaintiff in the 2004 case, we are dismayed and saddened to learn of the trauma he has endured, and we commend and support the strength required to come forward. Another major revelation from Quiet on Set, it calls into question concerns over Nickelodeon showrunner Dan Schneider. He produced several hit shows like All That, The Amanda Show, Drake and Josh, Zoe 101, iCarly, Victorious, and more. He has never been charged with any crimes, but the series made claims about the toxic workplace environment he allegedly fostered for child actors and crews on his shows.
Working for Dan was like being in an abusive relationship.
Dan's treatment of people on his shows was an open secret.
So my lawyer filed complaints, gender discrimination, hostile work environment, harassment, and it was so devastating.
How safe can any kids be in that environment?
The docuseries also calls out sketches in Schneider's shows that include sexual innuendos.
But his style had a little bit of edge in it. It also really pushed the boundaries of sexualizing young girls.
It's so cool! Want to get slapped with a sausage? Sure.
There are jokes about being slapped with a sausage. There's a joke about being on the wood.
I want to be on the wood. What's the wood? I want to be on it.
You have actors shaking weights in a way that seems very clearly sexual. And these actors, for the most part, are minors.
Alexa Nichols, a cast member on Zoe 101, recalled filming a scene with Jamie Lynn Spears that had sexual innuendos, but admitted she didn't realize what the script was insinuating at the time.
We heard the boys saying, it's a shot. And I had no idea what that meant. Once I saw it again as an adult was when that memory came back. So I was like, oh. Wasn't funny. It still isn't funny to me, to be honest. It's just like, that's a kid. And she was on set that day and sorry. Just as a mom, like, if my daughter was ever put in that, it's gross.
Schneider spoke out for the first time about the docuseries in a video posted on his Dan Warp YouTube channel on March 19th and apologized to anyone he hurt.
Watching over the past 2 nights was very difficult, me facing my past behaviors, some of which are embarrassing and that I regret, and I definitely owe some people a pretty strong apology.
Let's talk about the massages.
Okay.
Watching the content yesterday, it was disturbing.
It was wrong. It was wrong that I ever put anybody in that position. It was the wrong thing to do. I'd never do it today. I'm embarrassed that I did it then. I apologize to anybody that I ever put in that situation. And even additionally, I apologize to the people who were walking around Video Village or wherever they happened, because there were lots of people there who witnessed it who also may have felt uncomfortable. So I owe them an apology as well.
The 58-year-old also admits what he would change if he could.
The main thing that I would change is how I treat people and everyone. I definitely at times didn't give people the best of me. I didn't show enough patience. I could be cocky and definitely overambitious and sometimes just straight up rude and obnoxious, and I am so sorry that I ever was. And all right, when I watched the show, I could see the hurt in some people's eyes, and it made me feel awful and regretful and sorry.
Quiet on Set also called out inappropriate behavior and comments surrounding sketches on some Nickelodeon shows. Brian Christopher Hearn starred in Season 7 and Season 8 of All That and claims he was sometimes put in inappropriate sketches during his time on the show that he felt were traumatic. He even claimed that while getting fitted, someone said the costume's skin tone should be the color of, quote, charcoal. Brian talked about his mom coming to his defense on set in the docuseries, but when he chatted with Access Hollywood, he revealed why he didn't tell her about the charcoal comment.
That charcoal statement that I mentioned on Quiet on Set was one that I did not tell her about because there were times where, you know, I felt that I could kind of jeopardize my position on the show if I upset her, or if I said something that I knew would make her, you know, show up to set the next day ready to burn the place down.
Since Quiet on Set premiered, several former Nickelodeon stars have spoken out, including Josh Peck. Bell came to his former co-star's defense on TikTok after many questioned the Oppenheimer star for not publicly addressing the docuseries.
I've noticed a lot of comments on some of Josh's TikToks and some of his posts, and I just want to let you guys know that this is really, you know, processing this and going through this is a really emotional time, and a lot of it's very, very difficult. So not everything is put out to the public, but I just want you guys to know that he has reached out to me, and it's been very sensitive.
But on March 21st, Peck finally weighed in with a lengthy Instagram statement, writing, quote, "I finished the Quiet on Set documentary and took a few days to process it. I reached out to Drake privately, but want to give my support for the survivors who were brave enough to share their stories of emotional and physical abuse on Nickelodeon sets with the world. Children should be protected. Reliving this publicly is incredibly difficult, but I hope it can bring healing for the victims and their families, as well as necessary change to our industry." Kenan Thompson, who worked on Nickelodeon's All That and Kenan and Kel, also talked about his experience as a child star on March 27th's episode of The Tamron Hall Show.
I know this is hard. It's a tough subject, you know, because it's tough for me because like I can't really speak on things that I never witnessed. You know what I'm saying? Because all these things happened after I left, basically, and Dan wasn't really on Kenan and Kel like that. I mean, he got it created by credit, but you know, there was a different showrunner, so our worlds weren't really like overly, you know, overlapping like that outside of all that necessarily. And then all that negativity kind of started happening outside of like our tenure there, you know what I mean?
Though Thompson said he didn't share the same experience as others who have spoken out, he believes the expose is a good thing despite being tough to watch.
My heart goes out to, you know, anybody that's been victimized or their families, you know what I mean? I mean, like, I think it's a good thing that the doc is out and it's, you know, putting things, you know, on display that need to be, you know, stories that need to be told for this, you know, accountability's sake. But it's definitely tough to watch because I have fond memories of that place, you know, and I have fond memories of, you know, my co-stars and stuff like that. So to hear that they've gone through terrible things like that is just, it's really tough.
Melissa Joan Hart also talked about her experience as a child actor on Nickelodeon while on the Citizen McCain with Meghan McCain podcast on March 29th.
I don't know other people's experiences, and I'm not negating anything anyone else says. I don't know other stories. I've never been told these people's stories that are in the documentary, and I have to say I've never heard a story from a Nickelodeon star personally. No one's come to me and talked to me about any of these situations, and that's not to say anything about anyone's story that they, you know, I absolutely trust them, believe them 100%. But my experience was that I was in Orlando from 1989 to 1993 or 4. And I think maybe there was a difference between Hollywood Nickelodeon and Orlando Nickelodeon, although I'm not 100% sure on that. You know, in Orlando, I had nothing but a wonderful experience.
As for why Bell decided to speak out now, The 37-year-old explained on the Sarah Fraser Show on March 22nd that he felt comfortable opening up to one of the series' directors, Emma Schwartz. Bell also shared that he then entered rehab, which helped him come to terms with things he, quote, hadn't faced head on.
Once I got out, I thought to myself, maybe this is a good time to reach back out to them and say, hey, I'm not 100% yet. Let's talk some more, but I'm getting closer to feeling comfortable with finally sharing my story.